So welcome to Personal to the Wonder Trumpet. We're going to start off with a few little fables that I've written. The idea behind these was that if we lost all knowledge of religion and science and everything was quite clear, how do we try and make sense of the world around us? How we try and explain how we came about? So these four little fables are how I think we might explain ourselves in that situation. The first one's called The Beginning and the Great Undoing. Before people walked the earth, before animals hunted and grazed the open plains, before trees decided to reach high into the sky, before rocks lay down to their eternal sleep, before the stars were given their first spark, there was some other world here. In this place, there were still all the things we recognise, but they did not know what they were yet. They were not solid, whole or real. There were two creatures living in this strange, endless, undefined world. One was male, the other female. Through long epochs of what we now call time, they had searched for each other. They were the last of their kind, and so terribly alone. They had travelled through, over, under, beyond, and around this world in spiralling circles, always on each other's trail, but never finding the other. They were caught in this eternal dance, frustrated and angered by loneliness and the futility of the search. Yet they were driven to forever chase each other around and around. In this hazy reality, the unfettered frustration and unbridled craving both creatures felt stirred up the world into following them. Around and around they went for incalculable lengths of time. Tides and eddies began to form and flow. Areas of the world took up new shapes and colours. The passing of these great, strange creatures altering the very world they inhabited. And so, after so many lifetimes chasing the other, they changed the world into what we see around us today. Do not think, however, that these great creatures gave up their chase. They still spin blindly around us as the sun and as the moon, so old and decrepit now that when they do meet, they do not know it, and so pass each other by in an eclipse. The second one, the first tree. As the earth was first forming, the model of unfocused things shifting and becoming clear, a tiny green sapling appeared. The first tree grew slowly in odd curled shapes. The ground it grew upon was not as we know it today. The rocks spoke to one another. The oceans tried to drown the sky, and mountains often liked to wander about. Still, this tree grew and grew and grew. It saw day become night more times than any other thing in history. It lived through the birth of the seasons and the world growing quiet in its old age. The tree was alone and felt it, and so it bore fruit. Each plump, succulent specimen as different from the other as it was similar. Reds, greens and yellows, round fruit, spiky fruit, lazy fruit, long fruit and hard-shelled fruit. One by one they ripened, becoming large and engorged by the spark of life the tree filled them with. As the fruit ripened, they fell to the ground and opened. From the first, spilled forth grass and flowers. From the second, shrubs, trees and seaweed. Next came insects and the crawling things, then frogs and lizards. The discarded, drying husks of fruit lay all around, becoming food for these new creatures as they spread far and wide across the world. Other fruit fell, and reptiles clawed their way into being. More and more fruit burst open, each and every one containing new and exotic things. One did not fall from the tree, but instead burst into the sky, filling it with birds. Then came shrews and moles and mouse-like things. Bit by bit, the tree became bare. The plants and animals became numerous, and the world was made beautiful by their shapes and colours. Before long, there was only one fruit left to fall. It had clung to its branch for so long that it had become fat and weighed heavily on its branch. The tree could not hold the fruit for much longer. It strained and it heaved, but eventually it was too much to bear. The branch broke, the fire of life igniting the splintered end. From this final fruit spilled forth humankind. So long had we fed from the tree as seeds that understanding came to us. We lifted the broken branch, flaming at the end, and used its fire to forge the world into what we desired, forgetting all about the tree that gave us life. This original tree still survives, but thin, blackened and scarred. He weeps quietly in a dark forest, sad for the life it gave birth to, as the last of its children uncaringly destroys everything it strove to create. Okay. Number 3. The Bewilderbeast and the Pansy. The Bewilderbeast wandered far and wide through his woodland and forest homes. Ferns hosting swaying curtains of falling dewdrops, the scent of spices and apples filling his nose. All this time ruminating upon the soft grasses and plants he happened upon, while casting his quizzical eye and strange mind across the world around him. He ambled comfortably in his solitary life under skies of dove grey and pastel blue, never knowing, but always following the forever rising sun that glittered through the leafy canopy above his head. He questioned the trees, but they did not answer. He questioned the crawling things, but they did not answer. He questioned the breeze, but it did not answer. He questioned himself, but the answer was only more confusing than the question he had initially posed. Until one day, when the Bewilderbeast encountered a wild pansy, growing tiny, yet strong and vibrant in a shaft of pale sunlight. Her face held high and bright, colour that radiated out as warmth. The Bewilderbeast questioned her, and she answered. They sat together and spoke of many things, till the forever rising sun reached its apex and began to descend. Through this one eternal day, they discussed something and nothing and everything. And then, as that day ended and another forever rising sun began to ascend, they realised that there was still always more to know. And finally, time flies. One day, a small boy walked through a door that was not there. It had never been there, and never would be again. Yet he found it, as in some strange way it was always there. The room beyond was vast and curved like the distant surface of the earth. The floor was checkered tiles and the walls were so distant they could not be seen. There was no breeze, as there was no air, yet the boy could still breathe. He took in deep chestfuls of the strange place, breathing in through his nose and out through his mouth to remain calm. It smelt of fresh grass and ancient and musky caves. It tasted of fresh fruit and dry bitter leaves. All the while, there was a distant but increasing sound, a heartbeat of a kind, thumping steadily. The young boy followed the sound. He walked for what seemed like days, yet could have been months. He did not know how long he had paced, without growing tired. Eventually, he found the source of the sound. It was a giant clock. Now, the young boy did not know this, as he was from an era before clocks were known. It stood tall and robust, and its face wore a stern frown of concentration. The young boy put his ear to the body of this monolithic clock to listen more closely to its heartbeat. To his shock and surprise, the clock began to laugh. "You tickle me," it protested merrily, the stern frown melting from its face. The young boy and the clock spent a great deal of energy upon one another, conversing, laughing, and being marvellous together. All through the smiles and the laughter, the heartbeat of the clock increased, speeding up the turn of the hands upon its face. But when the boy began to grow weary and restless, and felt the need to return home, the clock became quite forlorn. It wept, and its heartbeat slowed. The young boy did not enjoy the clock's sorrow, and so told it that he would leave open the door that was not there, so that all the happy occasions, laughter and joy of the world could be seen in this vast empty place. The clock agreed happily to this, and the young boy went on his way, taking with him the tiny animals the clock gave him to be his eyes and his ears. True to his word, he left open the door that was not there, and so the two worlds were forever joined, and thus time began. Its flow speeds at our mirth and slows at our sorrow, as the clock's heartbeat thumps in time with us and our world. This is why you always get time flies when you are having fun. Thank you.